I will call our Cookeville City Council meeting for Thursday, June 1st to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Baji. Present. Councilman Walker. Present. Mayor Wheaton.
Here.
Vice Mayor Eldridge. Here. Councilman Gilbert. Here. 5 present.
Thank you. At this time, I would like to ask those that wish to do so to stand for the invocation given tonight by CPD Chaplain Pastor Skip Ritter, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, as we come before you tonight, we ask that your divine wisdom would be provided for each and every one of us, especially for our councilmen and their special needs that they have for their families and the businesses that they are in. And Lord, we pray for our mayor and the assistant mayor as they lead in this process. And I pray for special wisdom for them and guidance. And Lord, we ask that the decisions tonight would be pleasing not only to you, but be well accepted in our city. I ask for peace and love to prevail in our community. I pray all this in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Pastor Ritter. Item 3, consider approval of agenda as presented. Are there any changes?
No changes.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Eldridge, second by Councilman Walker. Any discussion? All vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 5A, old business, consider approval of minutes of council meeting held on May 18th, 2023. Is there a motion? Motion made by Councilman Bachi. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Eldridge. Any discussion? All vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. For our consent agenda, 6A, set a date 7/6/23 for a public hearing on ordinance O-23-06-15. Request to close, abandon, and declare a surplus property, a portion of an undeveloped right-of-way located off Holly Avenue. 6B, set a date 7/6/23 for a public hearing on ordinance O-23-06-16, rezoning a portion of property located at 801 and 803 Crescent Drive, tax map 053A, Group A, parcels 021.00 and 022.00 from RS10 Single Family Residential to CL Local Commercial. 6C, consider awarding bids for LED lights. 6D, consider approval of pricing adjustment on transformer bid approved by the City Council on 5/5/22. 6E, consider declaring a surplus slide, the city slide, and related ancillary equipment, including storage trailer. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Gilbert, seconded by Councilman Baji. Any discussion? All vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7A, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance O-23-0509, amending the zoning code to allow medical clinics in the CR Regional Commercial Zoning District as a use permitted by right. Mr. Ward.
Thank you, Mayor and Council members. The CR district is intended for medium to large scale commercial operations of a regional nature. These districts are located on streets of major collector or higher classification. All uses developed within the district are so to be designed to offer convenient ingress and egress to those major collector or higher classified streets. Currently, medical clinics are permitted by right within the CL Local Commercial, CG General Commercial, MS Medical Services, and CI Commercial Industrial Mixed Use Districts as a use permitted by right, and they're also permitted as a special exception within the University UNV District. While medical clinics specifically are not permitted within the CR district, professional offices for audiologists, chiropractors, dentists, opticians, pharmacies, physicians, and physical therapists are all uses permitted by right within the CR district. Areas along Neal Street within the CR district contain several of these permitted uses and on a larger scale than we see in a lot of other places. The planning division prepared an amendment to section 223 under 223.2 permitted uses and structures as included in the ordinance, and also amending the charter permitted uses that would permit medical clinics as a use permitted by right in the CR zone. As we discussed at our work session on Monday, this is in response to a lot of inquiries we've had about a VA clinic that's looking to locate in our community. This amendment was unanimously approved by the Planning Commission as recommended by the Planning Division. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Oh, excuse me. No, yeah, there's a motion.
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Bocce. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, this does require a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing portion of the meeting. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this agenda item? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing portion. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the council? Okay, all vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7B, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance 023-0614, adopting the annual budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023, and ending in June 30, 2024 for Cookville Regional Medical Center. Ms. Betty. Ms. Key, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor Wheaton and council members for allowing us to present to you all today. For those in the audience, I am Buffy Key. I'm the interim chief executive officer for Cookville Regional Medical Center. Our chief financial officer could not be here today. She is traveling the California coast this week. So she's having a wonderful vacation. As you all are well aware, our staff, as well as our board of trustees at CRMC, has worked tirelessly for the past couple of months developing the budget for you. And on behalf of the CRMC Board of Trustees, I'm here tonight to request your approval of the CRMC 2023-24 budget. I want to start by thanking each of you for all of the meetings and budget sessions that we've had together for your efforts and review through the budgetary process. I recognize that we've spent a great deal of time with each of you discussing this budget, and we appreciate your time and your questions. Given the previous reviews, I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty details of the budget, but I want to touch on some of the highlights of the budget. Total operating revenue for fiscal year 24 is $395 million. I really want to stress the point that we are reinvesting in our staff for fiscal year 24. It's been a rough few years through the pandemic. Salaries for over 2,500 staff members, we're budgeting $123 million. Benefits for over 2,500 staff members, we're budgeting $30 million. And supplies, we're budgeting $131 million. Total operating expense is at $374 million. Total net income expected is $2.9 million. Current cash balance is approximately $60 million. Our projects for 2023 and 24, again, reinvesting in our people, currently undertaking reviews of each staff job description within our hospital and looking at to make sure that we're within market. Also, we have 40 additional beds coming on board with our renovation of 4 West and 5 West. This is not only an investment for access to community members that come into the hospital, but also a reinvestment in the community of approximately 10 to 12 million by using local vendors to work that project. And last, but certainly not least, for our projects for FY 23 and 24 are looking at our emergency department throughput reviews. That is the topic of our daily sessions together. So a recap of the year and to finish up, this year has been tough for all hospitals in our nation due to financial and operational pressures as a result of the after effects of COVID. I think I've talked to each one of you a lot about that. Staffing shortages that we saw, supply chain challenges, as well as persistent inflation. CRMC is not unique to these challenges. We feel confident that our current budget will put us in a position to address those challenges as best as we can. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. If there's no questions or anything on behalf of the CRMC Board of Trustees, I would request approval of this ordinance and the 2023-24 CRMC budget.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Eldridge. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Gilbert. We will open the public hearing portion for this agenda item. Is there anyone who would like to speak on the CRMC budget? Seeing none, we'll close it. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion from the council?
I just appreciate all the hard work and transparency that the hospitals provided.
Thank you.
Last
Thank
year.
you to each of you.
Great job. Appreciate it. It's been
Thank
fun.
you.
Yes. All right, we'll vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7C, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance 023-0611, providing a tax levy for the city of Cookeville, Tennessee for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2024, providing means for the collection of revenues and establishing the due date and delinquency dates for property taxes. Ms. Emmons.
Thank you,
Well,
Mayor.
I'll handle this one to go over this. We should have changed the agenda on this, but this ordinance does provide a property tax levy, and it proposes a tax rate of 92 cents for fiscal year 23-24. It also outlines how the revenues from property taxes would be allocated. 67 cents would go to the general fund, 2 cents to debt service, 5.5 cents to solid waste, 12.5 cents to our transportation infrastructure fund, 4 cents to economic development, and a penny to quality of life. The proposed 92 cent tax rate is a 10-cent increase in the current property tax rate. This would be the first tax increase since 2019. And we do have some examples in here of what impact that would be for property owners. For a home with $200,000 in value, it'd be an increase of $50 a year. In city property tax for a $500,000 home, the increase would be $125 a year. Now, we realize this is a significant increase in the property tax, but this additional revenue is necessary for us to be able to provide the significant raises that we're proposing that we'll be discussing in a few minutes with the remaining budget ordinances, but in particular for our police and fire. And it's also necessary for us to be able to fund some major capital improvements that we'll also discuss as we go through the budget, and some equipment purchases. So with that being said, I would recommend and request your approval of the ordinance 23-611. And Brenda and I will answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Is there a motion on 7C?
Move to approve.
Motion made by Councilman Walker. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Eldridge. We will open the public hearing portion of this meeting for this agenda item. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing. So we've got a motion and a second, so we can go ahead and vote. Or is there any discussion, excuse me, from the council?
I'd just like to mention, typically, I'm not a proponent of tax increases. But with working on the numbers and examining the budget during budget session, it looks like, we're doing very well from a tax revenue perspective, but most of that increase is inflationary. So the capital cost and operating costs seem to be outpacing what we're bringing in, even with the inflationary revenue. So that being said, I think we have to reinvest in our employees. A perfect example is it takes $150,000 to bring an officer through to go solo. And although we get a lot of that money back, each time, we just can't retain these employees. And so we're having to throw dollars after dollars after dollars for that training and the time invested. So in the future, I would like to see us try and maybe look at if we at a percentage of that tax revenue earmarked for salaries and things like that in the future if we need to do that. So that being said.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, we will go ahead and vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7D, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance 023-0612, authorizing appropriations for financial aid to public service, nonprofits, and charitable organizations for the fiscal year ended in June 30, 2024. Ms. Emmons.
Thank you, Mayor. Council members, this ordinance appropriates $916,517 to local organizations. $901,267 is budgeted in the general fund, $15,250 in the utilities. And then also breaks down $756,517 to our governmental partners joint ventures and $160,000 to nonprofits that were allocated by the committee. So for our governmental partner joint ventures, this ordinance appropriates $398,201 to the Putnam County Library, $65,000 to the Cookeville Senior Citizens, $35,000 to the Upper Cumberland Regional Airport, $130,000 to the Cookeville Putnam County Chamber of Commerce, with $50,000 designated to the Highlands Economic Partnership, $25,000 designated for workforce development, and $25,000 designated for the Visitors Bureau, $25,400 to the Emergency Management Agency, $50,000 to Cityscape, with $20,000 restricted for the support of Cookeville Fall Fun Fest, $43,149 to the Tennessee Rehabilitation Center, and $9,776 to the Tennessee Central Rail Trail Authority. We had an application process for the nonprofits. We received 21 applications, a committee of 7 volunteers. Citizens made recommendations for the allocations. We have made one change to the recommendation that they had, and that was for the Biz Foundry. The committee recommended funding them at $5,000. We have increased that to $15,000. So the amount allocated in the remaining portion of this ordinance is $160,000. $15,000 going to the Upper Cumberland Entrepreneur Foundation, which is also known as the Biz Foundry. $20,000 to the Cookeville Arts Council. $2,000 to the Cumberland Art Society for the Reba Bacon Program. $5,000 to Keep Putnam County Beautiful Clean Commission. $12,000 to Genesis House. $12,000 to Helping Hands of Putnam County. $6,000 to Kids Putnam. $15,000 to the 13 Judicial District Recovery Courts, exclusively for the Drug Court and the Veterans Treatment Court. $8,000 to the Upper Cumberland Child Advocacy Center. $8,000 to UCHRA for the Court-Appointed Special Advocates Program. $5,000 to the Veterans Honor Guard. $12,000 to Upper Cumberland Family Justice Center. $5,000 to the Cookeville Regional Charitable Foundation for the Putnam County Imagination Library Program. $5,000 to Snug as a Bug Foundation. $2,500 to Butterfly Blessings. $2,500 to the Cookeville Rescue Mission. $10,000 to the Cookeville Regional Charitable Foundation for their Community Health Fund. And $15,000 to the Volunteer Behavioral Healthcare Systems PATH Program. The city would like to thank the committee members for their work. This project is a very big commitment on their part, but it's very important and very much appreciated. We'll continue to work with the committee members to make the process better next year. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, but recommend your approval of this ordinance appropriating $916,517 to various organizations.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Eldridge. Is there a second by Councilman Walker? We'll open the public hearing portion for this agenda item. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on 7D? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public hearing portion. Council discussion? I know I want to thank the citizens as well for the process. I know they meet multiple times, go through a pretty extensive review of the nonprofits, and I want to thank them for allowing the city to do this.
Yes.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, we will vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you. 7E, hold a public hearing and consider on first reading ordinance 023-0613, adopting the annual budget for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023, and ending in June 30, 2024 for the city of Cookeville, Tennessee. Ms. Emmel.
Mayor and council, this is a long ordinance that appropriates the revenues and expenditures for every single one of our funds. But before I get into each one of the funds, I kind of wanted to highlight what this budget does in terms of personnel. We had talked about this 2 weeks ago. We made no change to what we proposed to you then. We have 2 pay scales, a general pay scale and a fire pay scale. We're doing pay scale adjustments, moving those up. We're doing proposed market adjustments for public safety for firefighters. On that fire pay scale, they'll get a $5,000 market adjustment. And for paramedics, we're increasing the paramedic stipends. So for them, the increase is going to be $7,760. For certified police officers, the increase ranges from $2,080, and that's for the upper level employees, captains and majors, up to $10,000 for certified police officers. The market adjustment for all other full-time employees, all grades, will be for $2,080, which is basically $1 an hour. This budget also includes a merit increase based on performance on your annual evaluation of up to 2%. And the total estimated cost for this proposed increase citywide is $2,533,000. And just for the general fund, $1.9 million. The TCRS rate, we have TCRS for our employees. For those on the legacy plan, it's going up less than 0.5% from 11.81 to 12.22%. And we have the bridge bill benefit for our public safety employees. That costs an additional 3.5% that we contribute for those employees. And we have the hybrid plan for those hired after July 1st, 2019, and the rate remains the same there at 9%, a contribution plus 1% for public safety there. This budget funds a total of 473 full-time positions citywide. 301 of those are in the general fund alone. And then we also have about 65 part-time positions throughout the city that this budget funds. So that's kind of the highlight on personnel that affects all the departments and all the funds. And we're going to jump right into the general fund then. And the first slide I want to show you is the changes that we have made since we presented the budget to you 2 weeks ago. When we presented the budget to you 2 weeks ago, the budget had a deficit of $4,510,204. The changes we have made is we increased that contribution to the Biz Foundry by $10,000, but we're transferring money from economic development to cover that contribution. We increased the appropriation in the general department for AI research by $50,000, increased the public works appropriation for the Spring Street Stormwater Project of $600,000, and we decreased the fire department appropriation for vehicles by $50,000. So the overall deficit in the general fund budget is $5,105,204. But I'll point out we've got, and you'll see in the next slide, we've got non-recurring capital purchases of $6,209,000 budgeted. So to summarize the revenue in the general fund, we got total revenue and transfers in at $36,427,000. We have 3 grants that are non-recurring one time. A state LPRF grant of $562,500. Federal ARPA monies of $96,746 and a violent crime state grant of $225,904, bringing the total budgeted revenue funds of $37,312,419 in the general fund. This slide shows you a pie chart of the breakdown of that 37 million. And you can see the biggest chunk there, the green, is local option sales tax. That's 52% of our revenue. We're highly dependent on sales tax. The next biggest chunk is property tax, and it has increased with the property tax increase. It is 22% of our budget. So you can see 3/4 of our budget is local option sales tax and property tax. So speaking of sales tax, we are budgeting a 2% increase in sales tax revenue growth. You can see the growth over the last 10, 12 years there. We're estimating to finish in this year with $18,917,000 in sales tax revenue. We're projecting growth of 2% on top of where we expect to finish this year. So we're budgeting $19,296,000 in sales tax revenue. Again, to summarize, that's our revenue there by category. The largest by far is our local taxes, $32,842,000 we're budgeting next year. That's 88.3% of our revenue is local taxes. We're budgeting total of $37,312,491 in available funds there. On the expenditure side in the general fund, we're budgeting operating expenditures of $34,151,000. We've got the nonprofits governmental support we just passed in the last ordinance of $901,000. Transfers out, reoccurring $156,000. Transfers out, non-reoccurring, we're proposing transferring $1 million from the general fund to state street aid for additional street paving. And then, as I mentioned earlier, capital non-recurring budget of $6,209,150, bringing the total amount appropriated in this budget of $42,417,695. Okay, you can see this is the operating expenditures here by type. The biggest portion of our expenditures are salaries and benefits. We're in the service industry providing services to our citizens. So that's the largest portion of our expenditures. And then this shows you the breakdown by department. Again, at the bottom, total operating expenditures of $35,052,000 for all the various departments. That's an increase of 8.53% over last year's budget. And then again, capital, $6,209,150. And we're going to jump. And then you can see this is the operating expenses by department. And the largest by far are police and fire. They are 53% of our budget. And jumping into police department, we're appropriating an operating budget of $11,610,764. That's an increase of 9% over this year's budget. And we're budgeting capital there of $698,150. That funds 7 patrol vehicles with equipment and installs and 1 armored vehicle of $322,650. And that armored vehicle is being paid for with those 2 grants, the state grant and the ARPA money. Fire department, we are appropriating operating budget there of $7,188,929. That's an increase of 8.76% over current year's budget. Capital there is $2,693,000. We're proposing to add 3 additional firefighters. That brings a total of 12 over the last 4 years that we've increased the staff by. And as I mentioned earlier, we're increasing paramedic stipend. They'll get $4,680 additional when they become a paramedic. That's $180 a paycheck. We're budgeting $250,000 for Station 1 renovations. Those have already been started. Also $30,000 to re-equip Station 1 with lockers, furniture, washer, dryer, et cetera. A monitor for Squad 4, $36,000, radios, 22 radios and chargers, $27,000. And then we're also proposing by purchasing a new ladder truck, which would be $2.2 million. That takes a significant amount of build time. Even if we ordered it today, we're looking at 18 months to 2 years before that would get here.
It's actually 41 months.
41 months, okay. And then we also have in there $150,000 for engineering and design of stations. And that's to determine the scope and the cost for a projected bond issue to rehab some stations and rebuild another station. So Public Works Department, we're appropriating operating budget of $4,840,395. That's an increase of 13% over current year. We're also funding 1 new position in this department, a street sign marketing tech, and $1,542,000 in capital here. And you got the list of it there. A metal building, a tilt trailer, school traffic light program, push camera, mowers, a mini excavator, skid steer, pickup trucks, SUVs, a used semi-trailer, concrete service truck. And then the biggest one is a stormwater rehab project here on Spring Street, $600,000. A lot of the equipment on here, I think 4 or 5 of the items on here are things that we budgeted this year and we just couldn't get. We couldn't get trucks, we couldn't get vehicles. So we're basically rolling those into next year to see if we can get them next year. Leisure Services Department, we're appropriating an operating budget there of $2,533,000, an increase of 7.9% over current year's budget. And capital there is $1,111,000. They're going to replace the boiler in the new office across the street. And there's an old weight room over there. They need to do some renovations in the bathroom too. A grooming machine for the ball fields, a vehicle for CPAC, an administrative vehicle. And again, design and engineering here for $100,000. Again, this is to determine the scope and the cost for a proposed bond issue. To do some renovations over there. We'll talk more about that. And then $825,000 is the expense related to the LPRF grant that they received. They're going to be doing some expansion at Cane Creek Park. Parks and Maintenance Department, appropriating an operating budget of $1,977,000. That's an increase of 4% there. Capital of $102,500. Pickup trucks, utility vehicle, some concrete repairs at the concession stand at Dogwood Park, and $10,000 for building repairs for the senior center building. Again, the pickup trucks were budgeted this year. We just couldn't get them. So we're going to attempt to try to get them again next year. The Community Development Department, which is a new department created this past year. We're appropriating an operating budget of $1,502,065. That's an increase of 4% over the separate codes and planning department. They now have 3 divisions, codes, planning, and an economic development division. And there's no capital for this department. The general department, which includes the city manager's office, HR, IT, accounting, the tax office, has an appropriated budget for operations of $4,498,400, an increase of 5.95%. Capital here is $62,500. We've got $50,000 to look at design for City Hall, customer service tax area. And then we've got some IT equipment here, a server and switches, and those are going to be cost shared with the utilities. So the net cost to the general department is $12,500. And then we put $50,000 in the operating budget to explore AI uses for across the board all city departments. This slide shows you a summary of all the department's capital. Since that number is so large, $6,209,000. And then you subtract the three non-recurring grants that we have, the net cost to the fund balance is $5,324,000. So to summarize the general fund, we have proposed recurring revenue and transfers in at $36,427,341. Operating expenditures transfers out of $34,307,000. The governmental support and joint ventures, $901,000. So we have an operating surplus of $1.2 million. Then you've got your non-recurring capital expenditures of $6,209,000. The transfer out to state street aid for paving of $1 million. And then the non-recurring revenues in for the grants, that brings us to our deficit of $5,105,000. We're projected to start the year with just under $35 million in fund balance. So we'll end the year with just under $30 million in fund balance. And that's about 84% of our operating expenses, which is a good, strong fund balance. And I'm going to jump into the next fund, state street aid. State street aid is projected to start the year with a fund balance of $1,829,000. We're projecting to reduce that fund balance next year and end with $1,613,000. We're budgeting revenue there, $5 million, most of that, which is grants. We have a lot of grants in this fund. And then the reoccurring revenue stream is the state share gas tax, and it's at $1,219,000. Expenditures of $6,446,000, $1.8 million to pave city streets, $50,000 for sidewalk improvements, $60,000 for salt snow removal, $80,000 for intersection improvements, $43,000 for other operating expenditures, and then the capital expenditures, which is mostly the grants, $4,413,000. We've got the grant on Spring Street sidewalks, the Interstate Drive sidewalks, a grant with TTU 12th Street sidewalks, the project with the West Jackson Willow, and then the Buffalo Valley Bridge project. So we've got a lot going on in this fund. Transportation fund is projected to start the year with a little over $3 million in fund balance. This fund gets 12.5 cents of the property tax. So we're budgeting property tax there, $1,496,000, and then about $100,000 in interest expenditures here. $1,055,000, and then $960,000 out is a transfer to debt service to help fund some of the bond principal and interest payments on the debt we've done for the street projects. So the projects here are basically the same projects we had budgeted this year. We were not able to get any progress on those, so we're rolling those, hoping to work on those next year. The Salem Church Road, widening West 12th from Mississippi to Washington, the Henley Drive extension, and the Cedar Avenue Streetscape project, and then the transfer of the debt service fund. So again, reducing this fund by $418,000, leaving a projected fund balance next year of $2,618,000. To summarize the most recent bonds and projects that we had done, we issued just under $10 million, the 2021B issue. The proceeds for that were used to complete the police headquarters. We completed Cedar Avenue, and then in progress, we're spending money on the 10th Street Phase 2 and West Stevens, and we still have available unspent proceeds of $2.6 million there available for road projects. And then the 2022 issue, we did just under $10 million there too. We have used that money to purchase property from Trinity down off of 111. And we still have available there 6.5 million. So we've got about a little over $9 million left in these bonds that could be used on the projects that we have ongoing. And that takes us to the General Improvement Bond Fund. This is the fund where we put the bond proceeds in and account for those large projects. It's going to start the year with $9,375,000, which is the unspent bond proceeds. And we're proposing doing 2 additional bond issues next year, 2 $10 million issues so bond proceeds of $20 million. And then we're budgeting expenditures of $28,790,400, reducing that to a projected fund balance of just under $600,000. So the projects we have budgeted here, I'd mentioned the CPAC Leisure Services renovations, $2,500,000. Again, we put money in their general fund to do some engineering design, get the scope of that project and what it's going to cost. Fire station rebuilds, remodels, $9,850,000. And then we've got 2 major street projects that we've undertaken. 10th Street Phase 2, we budgeted $10,680,000 for that. And West Stevens, $5,460,000. And then other expenses are bond issue costs, about $300,400. So this is a summary of our capital improvements projects. The ones on the left there are the projects that we have ongoing and that we budgeted for. And then the ones on the right are some potential projects for future bond issues. And I know that all the directors have put together a list of their capital needs, and you guys are going to be looking at that. But these are some things that we had listed and shared with you at the work session. So the debt service fund is a separate fund where we make the principal and interest payments out of this fund on our bonds. And it's projected to start the year with just under $16 million. Revenue, we put 2 cents of the property tax in there. And then the in lieu of tax payment that we get from CRMC of $700,000 goes into this fund. And then we also allocate to this fund the state shared sales tax. And we're projecting that next year to be $4,181,000. And then a transfer in from the transportation fund to cover the debt service on those large street projects of $960,000. We're budgeting principal payments on the bonds of $5,055,000 and interest of $1,475,000. And that does include principal and interest payments on doing 2 additional $10 million issues. So, and we're still projected to end the next year with just under $16 million. This is our current debt outstanding. We have 5 bonds outstanding currently. 2013, the 2020 issue, the 2021A, which was a refunding, 2021B, and 2022. So we currently have debt outstanding of $30,965,000. And the coupons on those range anywhere from 1.5% up to 5% on the last bond issue that we just did. And this shows you the debt service on those bonds. If we don't issue any more debt, we would be debt free in 2037. And then this slide shows you the what if scenario and gives you an idea of what our debt capacity is. The blue is our current debt outstanding, the $30 million. The green is if we did a $10 million debt issue this fall. And the purple is if we did another $10 million debt issue in the spring. And that red line is the revenue that's currently going into the fund. So you can see the difference. We still have some debt capacity in fiscal year 25. We could still do another $10 million issue once you start looking at some of the big projects that we have. That's without putting any new revenues into the fund. So. And we're going to jump on to solid waste. Solid waste is our garbage pickup sanitation fund. It's projected to start the year with $1,171,000 revenues, which includes 5.5 cents of the property tax we're putting in there next year, plus charges for services. So $2,644,000 and expenditures of just over $3 million. So we're going to reduce fund balance next year by $400,648, leaving them with $770,000. Their operating expenditures include residential collection, 579,000, commercial collection, 909,000, brush collection, 345,000, and other operating expenses of 175,700. We're also budgeting capital next year of just over $1 million. That includes dumpsters and carts, but also 2 sanitation trucks. The side load truck there, council has already approved that. We put our name on a truck since they're so difficult to get right now, but it's not going to be delivered till much later this fall or later this year. So that's $428,054. And then they'd also like to get a front load truck, and we're appropriating $411,164. They're currently doing a review of our commercial rates to see how we compare with others in the area. So they may be coming back to you to see about increasing rates sometime during this next fiscal year. Economic Development Fund, we're putting 4 cents of the property tax into this fund. It's going to start the year with $2,735,000. So revenue, most of that is the property tax, and we also have 1 grant with ECD. So $561,332, expenditures and transfers out of $399,210. Operating expenditures of $51,210. We put money in there in case we decide to continue on with that retail strategies consultant that we've worked with in the past. So we got money there. Transfer to the general fund of $90,000. That covers the designated contributions to the Chamber of Commerce, for the Highlands and the workforce development, and then the $15,000 contribution to the Biz Foundry. So, and then we budgeted grant expense of $28,000. That's that ECD grant that we're going to be doing some site guest development at the Lemon Fair site. The Quality of Life Fund gets 1 penny of the property tax. It's projected to start the year with $1,712,000. The revenue is $968,350, which is 1 penny of the property tax. Plus we put the hotel motel tax in there, and we're budgeting $800,000 for it. Expenditures of $1,500,250 and transfers out of $34,767. So the expenditures we're budgeting $20,000 for parks and recreation activities. And what that is the 4th of July sponsorship of $20,000. We've got $95,000 in parks and recreation equipment, which is to replace the Christmas tree at Dogwood Park, $65,000, and to replace cameras and upgrade the cameras at Dogwood Park for $30,000. And then the transfer to the general fund, $9,767, covers the appropriation to the Central Rail Trail Authority. And then we got $1,385,000, and those are the projects that we're spending the hotel motel tax on. And the way that breaks down, we've got to start the year a little over $1 million in hotel and motel tax, and we're budgeting next year $800,000. And you can see the list of projects and the planned use of the money for next year. The contribution to the chamber covers the appropriation to the Visitors Bureau of $25,000. The TTU Stadium project, this is payment to a 5 that we committed to for that project of $200,000. $25,000 for the depot steam engine caboose, repainted, refurbished. Improvements at Cinderella Park, West End Park, Franklin Park. The other big one there is the city gateway sign that we've been working on, $350,000. We still got the 6 pickleball courts in there, $300,000, an irrigation system at Sportsplex, $140,000, and then other park enhancements at Cane Creek, $200,000. So we're budgeting expenditures next year of $1,385,000, which will leave us a balance of about just under $500,000 in hotel motel tax. The drug fund is a special revenue fund that is restricted. The revenues that we put in there are fines and forfeitures that have been awarded to our police department. So we're appropriating revenues next year of $36,000 and $256,000 in expenditures. The $256,000 includes $200,000, which we actually budgeted this year, and council's already approved a command trailer for $200,000, but it's not going to get here by June 30th. It'll be sometime next year before we get that. And the other item is $28,000 for a speed detection data collector that they wanted to purchase out of these funds. The Employee Health Insurance Fund, this accounts for our self-insured fund, which, as you know, going July 1st, we are converting to being fully insured. But the self-insured fund is going to continue to have claims after June 30th because any claims incurred before June 30th, no matter when they're paid. So we're going to have about 3 months of runoff claims. So that we're going to start the fiscal year with a little over $1.2 million. I'm budgeting revenue of $35,000, which is just interest. We're not going to have any new money going into it. Expenditures is $670,100. That's just a shot in the dark. I have no idea what claims could be during that runoff period. So if we're close, we should end the fiscal year with about $600,000. And with us going fully insured, that money will just set in an interest-bearing account. In case we ever decide that we want to go back to being self-insured, we have some starting money to do that. The Workers' Comp General Liability Fund is an internal fund. We pay all of our workers' comp and our liability claims out of this fund, and then the departments reimburse this fund. So it has $983,000 to start the fiscal year. We're budgeting expenditures of $650,200. $250,000 for liability claims, $400,000 for workers' comp claims. And again, the revenue is nothing more than the reimbursements from the departments for that. So they'll end next year with about a little over $1 million because this fund also earns interest. So the tree board fund is a small fund that we let the tree board kind of oversee. It's going to start the year with about $10,000. We're budgeting revenue and transfers in. The general fund transfers $5,000 to this fund. They use that for matching money to get some grants, tree grants. And then we're budgeting expenditures of $10,300, which is a grant and other operating expenditures. So they're projected to end next year at $7,854. It's hard to say thousands when I've been saying millions. Okay, the Animal Control Fund is projected to start the year with $1,637,000. This is the fund that accounts for the operations of the Cookeville Putnam County Animal Shelter. The revenue transfers in of $591,500. That includes governmental support from the county and the other local municipalities of $250,000. Charges for services and also donations. And then their operating expenditures of $597,327. So they're projecting to end next year with a fund balance of $1,631,000. We have requested governmental contributions from Monterey of $12,500, Allgood $7,500, and Baxter $10,000. Those are a little bit of an increase over last year's. Some of them may be too far along in their budget to do that this year, but puts them on notice that maybe they can add it to it next year. The city of Cookeville contributes $110,000, as does Putnam County, and we increased those amounts this fiscal year. We were giving $88,000 each. So, Customer Service Department is also an internal service fund. They exist to provide services to our utilities. They collect all their payments and send out bills for them, and they have meter readers that read all the meters. So their expenditures are $1,924,000, meter reading expense of $554,000, and customer service expense of $1,329,000, and then capital expense of $40,000 to replace one meter reader vehicle. All the expenses this department incurs are reimbursed by the utility. So the revenue in there is nothing more than reimbursements from the utility departments. And speaking of utilities, we'll jump into the utilities, and they're the last funds that we have. So hang in there with me. The Water Quality Control Department is projected to start the year with cash reserves of just over $16 million. And they are projecting to reduce those reserves next year by $9,218,000, leaving them with cash reserves at the end of the year of $6,857,000. You can see there their operating revenue is $21,748,000. They also have lots of non-recurring revenues, the SRF loan proceeds, some ARPA money, some other grants and contributions, and non-operating revenues that brings their total inflows to $37,549,000. Their operating expenses, I've got them listed there, the water plant, the distribution system, all their different divisions. That totals $18,870,000. They have lots of capital budget. They've got lots of projects going on. Barry went through all those with you when we had our meeting 2 weeks ago, but you're looking at 31,282,700. I've included this slide to show you what makes that up. And the big ones on there is the water plant expansion project that we're funded with the SRF loan. 11,500,000 is what he's got budgeted next year for that. The tech pump station and EQ tank, 4,800,000. The South Jefferson water line replacement, 3,100,000. A lot of projects going on there, so. And the electric department is projected to start the year with cash reserves of just over $17 million. They're budgeting power sales of 64,512,000, non-operating revenues 1,459,000, add back the non-cash depreciation, and their operating expenses of 70,574,000. So they're also projecting to reduce their cash reserves by 1.5 million and next year with 15,590,000 in cash. Their biggest project that they had budgeted, they had shared with you, was the Cane Creek Transformer project, which is a $1.6 million project. And the Cookeville Gas Department is projecting to start the year with cash reserves of $24,220,000. Budgeting operating revenues there of $12,441,789. Non-operating revenues is 651. Adding back the non-cash depreciation and their expenses of 13,324,000. They're projecting to add to their cash reserves 368,000 and ending next year with cash reserves of 24,589,000. Purchase of gas is their largest expense. They're budgeting $7,928,000 there. And that's all the funds we have. What this ordinance does is appropriates all these funds here. That's kind of a summary, all of them. The proposed expenditures for all of that, I just went through, is $227,810,799. I'd be happy to answer any questions, or James can jump in and add something if he wanted to too, but I'd recommend your approval.
Thank you for all of that, Ms. Emmel. Do we have a motion on this item?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Baji. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Eldridge. And now we will open up the public hearing portion of this meeting for item 7E. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on this item?
I just want to say wonderful job.
Didn't you? I didn't think yes. Thank you for that. Yes. Is there any other comments? Okay, we will close the public hearing portion of the meeting and open it up for council discussion.
I'd first like to say, great job on the budget. This is a substantial budget in our city. It does come with a tax increase, but we are doing great things in the city. We're keeping up with economic inflation. We're keeping up with the demand, the growth our city's had. We're doing good things for our employees. And this is, in all the years that I've served on the council, this is one of the more substantial budgets that we put forward and that affect everyone in the city and our staff. So I really appreciate all your hard work and efforts towards that. So I appreciate that a lot. I would like to amend the budget and reduce the allocation to the fireworks to $8,000 in the Quality of Life Fund.
So is that
A motion to amend the budget and reduce the fireworks to $8,000.
is there a second for that motion? Okay, I will second that motion and I'll open up the floor for discussion on the amended item to allocate only $8,000 to the fireworks. Every other nonprofit that comes to the city of Cookeville asking for funding goes through a very stringent vetting process through a committee of citizens. In that review process, financial statements are disclosed. They're reviewed for where income's coming from. Is there any other funding that they're getting? Where is the money spent? How is the money spent? And how do their services better the citizens of Cookeville? Better Cookeville, another nonprofit, has come to the city asking for additional funding. However, they have not been made to go through the same vetting process that every other nonprofit has to go through. Better Cookeville gets $8,000. That does not include the services and utilities that the city provides for that event, which totals close to $10,000. Better Cookeville has come to the city asking for more than double the amount that they get, for a total of $20,000. Again, not having to go through the same vetting process that every other nonprofit has to go through. As a steward of the taxpayer dollars, I don't think this is the best use for those additional funds. I'd like to see those additional funds used for more sustainable things in Cookeville that can better all the citizens of Cookeville for a longer period of time, something like an indoor sports complex or an aquatic center. So with that information, along with the fact that we requested the financial statements from Better Cookeville and we did not receive them, I cannot in good faith vote to give Better Cookeville any additional funding. And that's where I stand on this amended item.
Yeah, I mean, this does represent a 250% increase of their contribution. The city's surplus in the slide that we had done in the past. We're enthusiastically, I think, replacing the Christmas tree this year. And those events aren't run by that organization anymore either. So for us to increase our funds to them, we did ask for more recent financials. And we were just kind of referred to 2021 year-end financials, which showed the beginning of last year, they were starting with about a $215,000 fund balance. So there's more than enough money to have these fireworks shows for a couple years. And they would have had one since then. So without more accurate financials and without being able to be transparent with that money, I don't see how we can move forward with giving them an increase in funds. I would like to see this council sit down and discuss that a little further for the next year. But I am willing to move to the $8,000 that they have gotten in years past. And I do hope we have a great fireworks show. I just want to see those funds come out of where money has been raised in the past and supported this in the past, not new money coming in. And I do think, and I agree with the mayor, that the process is really important for us just to start giving money away without going through some sort of transparency process would be a bad precedent to set.
Any other discussion?
But I wonder, were they ever asked to go through the nonprofit side like all these others, or they're just looking for a partnership, right?
Oh, they came out of the nonprofits a couple of years ago.
Right,
It's been
right.
direct allocation,
And nothing was said then about keeping them in the nonprofits then? Okay.
not to my knowledge.
I think the prior leadership and management kind of looked at this as not really supporting the nonprofit, more as advertising, public relations,
Right.
sponsorship of the firework. Now, if this group wants to change the way we look at that, you're welcome to, but that's kind of the approach that prior management and leadership took in the past.
And we're not given, I know he's asked, I know Better Cookville's asked, we're not given to Better Cookville, just to clarify, because he asked that we give directly to the fireworks, that way it helps any muddying the water of the funding, so. And again, I think we talked about it in the session. I do recall we saying we have plenty of money in there, right, in the quality of life funds, and we
Yeah,
still
just
have,
went through there.
yeah,
We've got
exactly, yeah,
$12
we saw that, yeah.
And I think that's a good point that, and Brenda, I talked about this, whatever amount, if an amount is approved by you guys tonight, we will pay directly to the fireworks vendor, not to Better Cookeville or anybody else. It'll be directly to, for this next year's fireworks, should you approve whatever amount you approve.
And I'm excited about giving 65 to a new tree too, because it's not working. And I'm excited, totally excited about that. As like, these two things are my favorite events we ever do. And so so I just want to make sure we're understanding of that.
Yeah, I mean, to speak to the allocation directly towards fireworks, we've been allocating to this nonprofit for years now.
I think it's been 7, 8 years now.
7 or 8 years, and we've used our city assets, the Christmas tree, the slide the city to allow them to raise additional funds. So the funding that they have should pay for the fireworks. And so for them to, Red, White and Boom has become as much a promotional marketing event as it has a city fireworks event. And so for us just to simply pay their bills doesn't move forward in good light with taxpayers' money if there's funding in that organization to do what it was meant to do and where they've raised it off of city assets in the past. So I think moving forward, we just need to discuss that a little more. Again, we can fund them for what we funded them in the past. We know we've got a fireworks show coming up soon, and we certainly want to help provide that for the members of the community.
I mean, if they were asking for 100,000 for the entire fireworks, I could say, yeah, we can give 100,000. That's a little much. I would even say, not sure about that, but we're doing 20% towards everything. And we've already talked about inflation increase. We've talked about all those things.
In terms of the delta, it's like 0.00003%
Yeah.
of an enormous budget that represents a lot of good things going on.
Yeah.
And this is a pro-American event, as you can think of, participating. I'm comfortable giving a 0.00000 whatever percentage to this pro-American event. I say we vote on it.
Well, I think on a $36 million budget, if you start to shave them off and hand them out, then, that could be substantial to some people. I just think the process is important here.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Let's vote.
Any more discussion? Okay, so we are voting on the motion to amend the budget to only give Better Cookville $8,000 instead of $20,000. Dan, did I say that correct?
You did.
Okay, all right. So we will vote to amend the budget.
All votes correct. 3-0, motion fails.
Okay, so we will go back and now we will vote on the budget as presented without any amendments. We do
Can
not-
I say a couple things
Yeah.
about the budget? First, I want to thank all the department heads for all the hard work they did this year on the budget. There's a lot of needs that we tried to address in this. There were some that we couldn't. And, part of the process going forward as we review our capital needs, we want the council's input on decide how we want to go forward. I also want to note about salaries. We just touched on this a little. The council's aware, the public may also be aware that we're in the process of a salary study right now that may call for some significant adjustments of pay for certain employees, especially our skilled positions. And we have included in the budget additional funds to cover that. We don't have the specifics on it yet. We do have a lot of specifics, but the final report is not complete. So we do have extra money in here to meet those. We have a projection on what we're going to do, but not exactly. So there will be, for some employees, those that are identified in the salary study, a raise larger than the 2080 to move them to where they should be in the market. We didn't touch on that a lot tonight, but we did discuss it in the work sessions we had, but I do want to make sure that everybody knows that there still will be some market adjustments for certain employees. But again, I want to thank all the department heads, in particular Brenda and Jenny Niswander from the finance department for all the work they've done on this. And I think we're very happy to present to you guys for you to approve.
Well, we can't do this without you either. I think we need to make sure that we thank Mr. Mills because his passion since I've been on I'm already losing track, how long ago, his passion has always been to make sure that we pay our city employees because we know how vital they are to how the city functions. And that is something that he has been able to help us do 3-4 times now. And so it's something that when people ask me, what are you most proud of that you've done on city council? If I say being able to raise our employees' pay. So thank you for all of your hard work for making sure that happens. It's not easy, but you've made it, it's like pretty easy for us to vote on. So thank you.
Thank you.
Stay around another 3 years, please.
I want to echo something Eric said earlier that just, hey, this budget represents a lot. I mean, I'm a small business owner too. I mean, with growth, you sometimes you kind of have the pains of exercise and going through these motions, but these department heads, just think about what this represents to Cookeville and all the good that's happening as a result of good leadership, not only from the top here, but from also our department heads and a budget of this size. I mean, just contemplate for a minute how well this represents Cookeville is doing and kudos to all you all for doing that.
Yeah, this is probably 5 months worth of work.
Yeah.
To get to this point tonight. We start right after the first of the year and we send out information to all the directors. Every department director helps prepare the budget. They put in their requests, then we meet with James, go through all that. And it's been a lot of work, but it's been a huge team effort. We've had a good team.
Yeah, you do. You really, we do. I have people in the community have always said, what's one of the things you're proud of, just like Mayor Wheaton has said, is one thing too, and that Chad said is the department heads, they manage them. You guys do a fantastic job at managing the money. I mean, we're sitting really good. So with this budget and everything, but you guys do a phenomenal job at managing the money. You can manage mine if you'd like, that'd be great. But you do a great job. You really do. And that's something I'm telling you second. But that's something I always tell everybody is how well you guys do. And that's an awesome thing to be. And I'm proud to be a part of that for sure.
I'd like to echo what everyone said as well. I mean, it's just, I'll do a phenomenal job and attention to detail.
Yeah.
Shows.
Thank you.
Yeah, the substantial increases that we're doing to support our firefighters, our police, all the city staff, all our city workers, our different utility departments. It goes a long way to what's provided to the residents of the community and how well our community functions. And I think this council has done a great job at prioritizing infrastructure improvements and prioritizing the health of our workforce to make this a substantial budget. So thank you very much.
And thanks to council for all the support in all the things that we have done in the last couple of years under James' leadership to do significant adjustments to our employees' pay. I mean, we couldn't have done it without your support, so.
All right, anybody else? We will go ahead and vote on the budget as presented.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank you,
Thank you
Ms.
very
Owens. 7F, consider awarding bid for 2024 Max spreader truck utilizing the Sourcewell contract, Mr. Turner.
Let me get there. Mayor and members of the council, when sewage comes into the wastewater treatment plant, it leaves in two forms, one clear water to the creek, and the other is the sewage sludge or biosolids, which we spread on farmland. Our existing spreader truck is a 1995 International spreader truck there. We are spreading on the farmland.
Barry, was that you driving?
No. So by the time we can get a new truck there, because our existing truck is showing its age, it'll be about 30 years old. So we took, this is actually a Sourcewell Corporation Purchasing Program number, which Worldwide Equipment is the bidder at $287,960. And I recommend y'all's approval on this, please.
Thank you. Is there a motion? Motion made by Councilman Stewart, second by Councilman Walker. Any discussion? This was
I got a real quick question. When you spread that on farmland, and stuff like that, is that just like a freebie or did they request it? Did we resell that? Is
Where do you get your rate?
We have tried to market it early on, and then we've got farmers to come and get it all for several years. We have looked about trying to package something and trying to get some return on it. Presently, we are hauling it and spreading it ourselves at no cost to the farmer. We're trying to stay close to the plant, keep our mileage down and stuff. So
especially with that truck?
yes.
Yeah, this is something I didn't know that we did. So but been here for, just learned about this. So thank you. I think it's great that we are recycling our this is a sludge, right?
Yes.
Yes.
It's actually pretty dry.
Nice word.
Well, I'm glad that we do this. So
What's the
It's not the same.
What's the nitrogen count in?
It's like a different.
What's the nitrogen count in? you know?
The nitrogen. It's,
Well, if you get it out, to
it-
people, nobody.
it's actually pretty low on nitrogen because we treat it with heat and that burns off and
That's why it's.
mix lime in. So it's high, like an agricultural lime, but the nitrogen gets burned off in that treatment process.
All right.
Best tour in Cookville sewage plant.
Oh, 100%. My girls country loved it and hated it at the same time.
I can drive that truck and sling that about that.
Any other discussion? Yeah, get them, the new one.
That was all that.
All right, we'll vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
And we'll stay on the topic of sewer with 7G. Consider awarding bid for 2023 South Jefferson Avenue Sewer Rehab Project. Mr. Turner.
In South Jefferson, our sewer line has given us a few problems over the years. This is a rehab project to rehab 6,280 feet of sewer main and approximately 50 sewer laterals. We're also trying to do this to stay ahead of the state paving of South Jefferson, so we won't have some patches there. We've been working a few years to get this done. This project here would finish it up. We took bids on the project. We got 2 bids, low bid being Pipe Works Plus at $1,908,210. I recommend approval.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Councilman Bocce. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Mayor Eldridge. Any discussion?
Is this mostly slip lining or?
It is
a lot of digging?
4,800 feet of cured in place, 800 foot of pipe bursting and 680 feet of dig and replace.
Okay.
You would ask that question.
Yeah.
Digging in place is what messes everybody's life up on driving. So it's by percentage, it's not much. That's good.
Yeah, and part of the digging, I think, is right in the intersection of Neal Street and Jefferson.
Goody.
All right. We're working on it. Any more discussion? All vote.
All votes correct. 5 yes, motion carries.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
That concludes the agenda portion of the meeting. Is there anyone who would like to speak on non-agenda items to the city council? Seeing none, anything from the council? All right, meeting is adjourned.